Hey, I've got great news for you. Today's podcast is brought to you by Audible.com. And because we like you so much, you can get a free audiobook download at audibletrial.com/bonfiresidechat. Over 100,000 titles to choose from for your iPhone, Android, Kindle, or MP3 player, or whatever you like to listen to. Check it out.
Some of our landings were desperate adventures. We are now prepared to meet the inevitable counterattacks with power and with confidence.
My name is Gary Butterfield.
My name is Kole Ross.
And I'm CJ.
And you're listening to Bonfireside Chat Appendix, an Undead second favorite,
where we ask you to reach out and touch the demon inside of us. Thank you so much for sticking with us, CJ, despite how late it is for you.
That's cool.
We're going to be reading our errata from previous episodes and also your responses to World 2.2 and 2.3 of Demon Souls.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I'll go ahead and just get started with this quick one here. It's the only piece of errata here, but from Leonard by contact. And he just wanted to point out, so last episode we attributed the Capra gif with the two dogs tackling the baby and Capra cheering him on. We thought that he had done that. He had just found it in the wild, which is quite all right. Yes.
I am really sorry, Leonard. We're going to have to ban you from the Facebook group.
Yeah, for Kole lacking to do his research.
We all start with privilege. We all start with our privileges, but their privileges, not rights, and I can take them away because I am a god over you.
Yeah, who am I going to be able to ban when I forget to research things?
Yeah.
So everyone look out.
Yeah, I just, you know what? My only crime is thinking highly of our fans. You know, they're so creative.
He's still great. It's still great.
I know.
Yeah, I'm not one of those. I hate those guys who are like, they show you something, you show them something on the internet, and they're like, "I've already seen that."
Yeah, no.
It's like, fuck me for trying to show you something funny.
Yeah, it's like
don't be a dickhead. Like,
here's the thing: something funny is still going to be funny, like the next 5 times you see it.
Yeah. I mean, if somebody's like showing me the all your base video and like acting like it's the best thing in the world, like I might be a little bit like, "Oh, kiddo," but I'm not going to be like, why did you do this to me? Like you're just trying to share something funny. Like it always comes from a place of good.
Yeah. Just kind of like I want to bring a little bit of light into your life.
Yeah. What is it? I can't remember that. Like I would put something on. There's a guy who was a coworker of mine at an old job, and I would put something on Facebook, and he'd be like, "Old internet is old." I'm like, fuck you. Like maybe I was working or doing something else rather than like trolling the same Tumblrs that you were, asshole.
Yeah.
Go to hell. So if anybody shares something with you from the internet and you've already seen it, just be gracious.
Say, hey, thanks for thinking of me.
Yeah. And the moral of that story is he's dead now.
Yeah. The moral of that story is I'm currently laying eggs in his chest cavity.
so my brood can use his carcass for sustenance.
Yeah, exactly. Little miniature Garys. PC gaming. Lovecraft.
Triple A
increased prices in supermarkets.
Yeah, exactly.
It's an option.
Yeah. I don't even like Grand Theft Auto. Those are my babies. CJ, do you want to read Ben's submission? These are not corrections. These are just people's responses.
Yeah, no problem. Ben says, Stonefang Tunnel. I must have died a dozen times at the corpulent hands of the fucking fat official. The insufferable salamanders and those shit-heel freight train miners. But strangely enough, when I finally reached the armoured spider and later flame lurker, I killed each boss in one go-round. I don't actually even remember the fights. This utter stroke of dumb luck became the foundation of my misplaced confidence, which eventually led me to finish the game. I erroneously thought, wow, that was easy. I must be really good at this. While the game took pains to thoroughly disabuse me of this notion, I thought you might enjoy hearing my apparently unusual experience with the denizens of Stonefang.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So for as methodical and as predictable and almost like machine-like as the Soul games are, a run of good luck can very much alter your experience.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. There's the element of luck down to like the random number generator that determines what the enemies do, and then also confidence.
Mm-hmm.
speaks a lot too, because you have to, take risks, and, a risk isn't, by definition, it's not something the result of. So it's a little bit of a gamble in and of itself, and you just happen to chance upon the right thing to do. There are, a limited number of verbs, ways you can react to any situation. One of them is the right one. You're going to get, a stopped clock is right twice a day.
Yeah.
Like, you're going to get it, every once in a while. So
one of them is the right one, but hesitation is always an option, and it's never a very good one.
Yeah, exactly. It's almost always the wrong one.
Yeah.
Less so in this game than in Dark Souls.
Right.
But definitely the case. Like, there are bosses in this game where it's best to kind of take stock. But if you don't do that and just do the right thing right away, good on you. I think that it probably attributes to some of, like, this boss has never given me trouble, but has given Cole trouble, and vice versa.
Yeah.
It's just us coming to it the first time and having good luck, or just kind of making a lucky guess, and then at that point, that mental block being down.
Monsters?
And just
they look like monsters to you?
Yeah, exactly.
I think there's a balance across the Souls games of you can get lucky, you can become more confident, but then you can get cocky, and that's when no matter how many times that you've played it, it can still lead you into a cul-de-sac of destruction, if you will. But on the other side of that, there can be those moments where your back's up against the wall, or even as muscle memory, you just think, I'm going to do this, and then it works. And you're sitting there in the aftermath, the demons sort of going up, your soul's levels sort of getting sky high, and you're sitting there going, oh my God. And that's one of the beautiful rushes of the Souls games. And for me, it's unmatched sort of elsewhere as well, because it's mindset, and it's being strategic, and as we said earlier, with sort of taking step by step. But there's times when the game does throw things at you, and you become adaptable. Yeah. And sometimes it's not even a conscious thing as to how you get beyond those. And that. It could be any of those at the same time. It's that dice roll.
Yep. Making decisions on the fly. Good.
CJ, are you like a follow-up question to that? Are you looking for a keyboardist for a cul-de-sac of destruction?
Yeah.
Because if so, I haven't played in a band in a while.
Some of the band names in the last episode as well. There was some great ones in there. I was thinking, like, I'd see that band. Where would they be on a 6-band festival?
Fourth.
Yeah,
and with the cul-de-sac of destruction, there's only one way in and one way out, and the rest of it is just an arc of houses that all rock.
Yeah. There's one way in.
Maybe the roofs sort of tip round, and then the drum kit's there.
Oh man, it's like music in the round or something.
Yeah.
Concept.
Have you heard cul-de-sac of destruction? No, their singer sounds like Ronnie James Dio.
Yeah,
he's like human-sized.
Yeah.
Didn't you know, man? Ronnie James Dio was a Muppet. Yeah, he was voiced by the same guy that did Yoda.
Yeah.
Is that true? Yeah.
Ronnie James Dio is Frank Oz. Oh, man.
And join us on next week's Behind the Music, when VH1 looks further into small people with voices and compares them to puppets.
Oh man, Ronnie James Dio, and what's his name from The Who, or from AC/DC, trying to sneak into a movie theater. Yeah.
The thing I could never get beyond with Bat Out of Hell by Meatloaf was when the chorus comes in, it just sounds like loads of the really tiny puppets from the Muppets, like the ones that are like little cabbages and sort of lambs and stuff, all leap from behind a wall and start going, like a bat out of hell. There's about like 12 of them, and then they all sort of disappear comedically after the chorus.
I don't know how much of a target this puts on me, but I really like Meatloaf.
Yeah. Whoa!
What's that?
Whoa is what I said.
Not like, like, oh man, I would like go see him on tour, but like it's fun. It is fun music.
His name's Robert Paulson.
Yeah.
I guess it depends. Like wanting to see him on tour because it's fun. Yeah. I mean, I was projecting more Meatloaf literacy.
Yeah, no. Like I only know the greatest hits. However, I enjoy the over the topness of it.
That's absolutely acceptable. For some reason, I just I don't feel like anybody should know a non-Meatloaf single. That's weird to me. Yeah.
So to put this in perspective, I have sang "Paradise by the Dashboard Lights" at karaoke, but I've not felt good about it.
Okay, there we go.
That characterizes it, right?
Yeah, that is perfect.
Okay.
When it comes to puppets and music, the only other one that I can really relate to is why I really can't get into hardcore, because the ones where you've got the kind of gravelly singer, and then you've got the real singer, and one's going like, I am singing verses, and then somebody else comes in. It just sounds like Cookie Monster to me, just like cutting in like, I am singing I'm singing cookies no. And I wish that was the case, because it just would be great.
that and Henry Rollins looks like Sam the Eagle.
Oh, and the Oscar the Grouch is Quentin Tarantino.
Ah!
Yeah.
I can see that. Just with the proportions of the face. Yeah,
it's just the voice as well. Just like, just imagine a kid going up to Oscar the Grouch going like, let me tell you what, I can't do a Quentin Tarantino voice, but, trying to talk to a young kid about Reservoir Dogs. Why he positioned the camera on the floor, and the kid's going like, do you like lollipops?
And how the cop cried because Harvey Keitel ad-libbed that line about killing his wife or something. Yeah,
I think there's a TV show there.
There we go. Yeah, Muppets reiterating trivia about Reservoir Dogs.
We've gone on some tangents on this podcast.
Yes, we have.
It's been a true beaut.
Oh man, wait till the deleted scenes. This is off the rails. Joe via contact. I'm always so excited to see new names. I don't think if you have responded, don't be insulted by that, Joe. You have a very common name. But for years, I had no idea there was a path other than the shortcut through 2-2. I found it straight away on my first ever playthrough, and through pure faith and luck, and maybe some dexterity for that safer landing, managed to make it all the way to the bottom with a series of jumps on my first try. Imagine my surprise upon finding the area boss within 5 minutes of starting the level. Needless to say, the Flame Lurker pummeled me into the dirt, but eventually I beat him without ever realizing I'd skipped an entire portion of the game. Dragon God, on the other hand, I didn't like the level, but his glowing yellow eyes reminded me of the miners. The aggressive miners had glowing yellow eyes. Perhaps he was controlling them? Not convinced. Prepare your tinfoil hats, folks. What color is the head wrap that the old monk uses to control you? Yellow. Ha-ha! All in all, 2-2 makes me miss the safer landing perk from leveling up dexterity, which was sadly absent from Dark Souls. Is that a thing?
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah, and your fall damage is greatly reduced anyway in Demon Souls, but the more dexterity you have, the less falling damage you get.
We spoke earlier, didn't we, about the Dragon God perhaps controlling everything within that level, and being a newborn creature that's struggling to enforce the hive mind, which is why everything moves so sleepily. So yes, kindred spirits on that one, Joe.
Yeah, in the previous episode, we alluded to the Skull Miners being hollow or soulless or whatever, Dreglings versions of whatever creature they are, and so like to have their actual consciousness replaced by this insidious demon. I could see that entirely.
Yeah, mayhaps. Sam says via contact, I actually trudged through 2-2 entirely on my first try, still freshly bodied from the mechanical spider, and had possibly my most stressful boss battle in any Souls game, thanks to the Flame Lurker, who is a gigantic, pressuring asshole who never lets up. No wonder he got put on guard duty at the far bottom of a mine, because fuck that guy. I managed to beat him that first time, but only by using up almost all my stashes of magical semen and medicinal weed. Thank you, Sam. Anyway, the real moral of the story is that if you're going to make a puzzle boss fight, make the run-up minimal and give the player safe spaces to think and plan. That's a huge difference between Bed of Chaos and Dragon God that we didn't point out, is that you can do rapid iteration on what you're doing with the Dragon God in a way you really can't with the Bed of Chaos.
Yeah, you're always exposed in the Bed of Chaos.
Well, no, not that. The fact that the run-up from the Dragon God is nothing, and the run-up from the Bed of Chaos is not insignificant. So that's a huge difference. Yeah, and that's true. That's an interesting thing about all the archdemons in Demon Souls. Like, you just get unlimited tries, like, right there.
Yeah.
With all of them.
Mm-hmm.
Huh.
I don't know. Okay, can you recharacterize that? Because I think I'm getting mixed up. So you're saying Bed of Chaos, Big Run.
Bed of Chaos, when you die to the Bed of Chaos, which you inevitably will, you start back at the bonfire in the middle of that lake of lava,
right,
and have to run through all of Los Izalith.
Okay.
When you die in the Dragon God, you start down, like, up a hill from him.
Yeah, like down the hall.
Yeah, so there's a much more rapid,
Yep.
like, your impetus to experiment is encouraged, and you're testing new solutions because the penalty for failure is negligent.
Yeah. Okay. There we go.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No.
Yeah. That makes sense to me. It makes more sense in the way that I initially parsed that. So.
Yeah. Yeah, and then just the fact that happens with all the archdemons. That's very interesting. Yeah. Huh. Well, except, actually the run-up from in 3-3, that actually sucks. Going up those stairs with the Black Phantom mind flayers. That's
that is awful, actually.
Yeah. But almost all the rest of them are no problem. So
yeah, even 3-2 sucks just because you're going to die to the man-eaters so much.
Yeah. Even though it's that's not an archdemon though. So like this is what I was saying is like all the archdemons, they tend to be right there.
Yeah.
So yeah, interesting. I hadn't thought about that. As far as the Flame Lurker, the only thing about, like, you're right that he is a gigantic pressuring asshole who never lets up. I just like the idea of it sounds like somebody who's trying to pressure you into doing drugs or something.
Come on.
He's a pressuring asshole. Yeah. That's what it sounds like to me. Yeah, and then why don't you take us on out with Levi here?
Yeah. Levi says, hours of running around lost, screaming, "What is the point of the bear bugs?" Finally, I decide to go back to the giant hole I found earlier and jump down in. 20 falling deaths later, I find myself in front of a fog gate. When I picked up the enchanted fist weapons that were nearby, I couldn't help but think that I was being set up for failure. I was. Flame Lurker was my first hurdle. I left World 2 on a quest to find a good magic weapon. I returned later with the enchanted falchion and swiftly dispatched Mr. Lurker, as he's known to his friends. For the record, I like Flame Lurker. He's one of the few bosses who is actually challenging in Demon Souls. Controversial. And gives you that great sweaty palm feeling that's so necessary for a great boss fight.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think that because he's so aggressive, but the arena is so huge, that's quite intimidating in itself, because wherever you run off to, he's going to get you. Unless it's those beautiful pair of ribs that are around the corner. So,
yeah. So I think there's a difference in the difficulties. Figuring out what to do versus actually pulling it off. So, like, you think of something like the Tower Knight, where the trick is just to figure out, if I attack his heels, he gets vulnerable. Or the Adjudicator, which is, the same thing, except with the meat cleaver instead of the heels. Stuff like that. Like, those are challenging in a way that, like, once you figure it out, I just need to execute on it, and I'm good. Whereas with the Flame Lurker, I would say the Man-Eaters are, by and large, without a doubt, uncontrovertibly, unequivocally the hardest bosses in the game. But they're hard in a very similar way, which is, like, there's no real trick to them except you just have to do damage and watch patterns and get through it. Yeah.
There's a little bit of that to the Tower Knight. Like, the Tower Knight is also, like, you have to attack him there, but if you can't get him to fall in one, like, it is true that there's a gimmick to it. So it's the difference between, like, a Sif or a Artorias, where there's no gimmick to those fights.
Right.
It's just a fight. Allant is like that too. The Allant boss fight is real good in that respect. But yeah, I would agree with you. And it's interesting to kind of classify in your mind the Dark Souls bosses that fall under one or both of those things. Even though sometimes the gimmick is just the fact that you have to die. When you look at something like Ornstein and Smo, where I guess the gimmick is that there's two of them, but you know what to do. You just have to play well.
Yeah.
You know, and there are probably more bosses in Demon Souls with kind of tricks to them.
Yeah.
Right. So you look at Adjudicator, you look at the Storm King, you look at the old hero.
Yeah.
You know, there and ones outside of World 4, like like Mater and Estrella, or you look at there are one, or the doll, the Fool's Idol. Like there are ones that they're more trick enemies. Boss fights with kind of gimmicks behind them, which I like. I like figuring out. That's why in Dark Souls, like Priscilla stood out to me so much, because even though it's not particularly hard, it's cool. It's a neat challenge. Like this is something very different. You know.
And then in Dark Souls, you've got someone like Calamite, who's just like who just doesn't give you any lead in to his next move whatsoever, which makes him one of the greatest boss battles. He was just like, that thing I did last time, not doing that. Oh, I'm straight into this one now. Oh, look, I'm swooping down. Oh, I've landed quicker than you recognise from last time. Here's that magic thing. Oh, now I've hit you with my tail, and it's just one after the other. It's fantastic.
Yeah.
The more I think about it, the more just all of the DLC is probably some of my favorite video game ever.
Oh yeah,
I think it's the way that it ties up the lore as well.
Oh yeah,
it just puts a pretty pink bow on everything. But when you go back to regular Dark Souls as well, there's odd little bits that creep in far later where you go, oh my god, like. When you're going towards Manus and you get you meet Sif, you've got Alvina, the ghost of Alvina, a couple of times beforehand, and then when you look at where the Forest Covenant are and where Alvina is, that she's actually protecting Sif and Artorias' grave, and she's not just this sort of meowy kind of pain in the backside. That's what's there. She's there to protect Artorias' legacy in his grave, and it's like. Oh my god! When that finally sinks in, and it's wonderful. But I agree. I just think it's a masterpiece the way it draws things together.
And they give you enough credit for being a goddamn grown ass person and being able to figure it out yourself.
Yep.
Yeah. I think that's why the level of storytelling is so masterful, because you can enjoy the game primarily just for the game being brilliant, and I think that's the way that most of us played the game initially, but. Once it starts to sort of getting under your fingernails, just little bits, and you start learning to read, or you go, "Oh, that character's from a story," and "Oh, so's that one," and then you start looking for people exploring the lore, and it just becomes more and more addictive to keep playing and to keep listening to discussions and watching the YouTube stuff, and that's the continual fascination for me, because. You can buy new games, but Dark Souls doesn't always let you play them for very long.
Yep. You become fluent in it, and then you want more and more.
Yeah.
I think with going back to 2.2 as well, I think that if you're not being successful with the Flame Lurker, it almost gives you a plan B just beforehand by giving you the Dragon Longsword, because 4.1 is the best place to farm for souls and level up. The Dragon Longsword is fantastic against those sort of Cylon skeletons that are in 4.1. So it does give you the tools to go, right, think on your feet. If you need to be tougher, if you need to be harder, here's a great thing to really carve them a new arse.
Yeah.
And then, crack on from there.
Huh. And you can use that actually to get the Crescent Falchion, which will aid you greatly against the Flame Lurker.
Yeah. Yep.
So that's a wonderful piece of design, I think, not to... Because the Souls games do this generally, I think, that even if your skill level isn't phenomenal, and I'm far from the greatest game player in the world, but it gives you a challenge, and it's like, well, here is the challenge. How will you overcome it? And it's not just one skill difficulty that you've got to get over, or selecting your easy, medium and hard. It's like, well, if I level up, if I try this weapon, perhaps I'll do this next time. The boss or the enemy was doing this, I'll try this. It's just thinking on your feet and trying on sort of different hats, if you will, to succeed. And once you're into that mindset, it becomes really addictive, that it's not a brick wall that you're up against.
Right. And that touches on something that I keep coming to in the podcast, which is the kind of unusual kindnesses of these game designs. this game design. Like, it's not a coincidence that you find the spider shield right before you get into Blighttown. Like, the game is helping you constantly.
Yeah.
It is not as hostile as the reputation that it has. Like, it is really helping you along. You just have to pay attention and work for it. It's like the souls help those who help themselves. Like, and that's really kind of the lesson. Like, if you look for things, just down to that, like, dragon sword thing, if, like, you're looking for it, you will find a way around whatever you're butting for, but you have to look for it, and that's the difference.
But if you're talking about Blighttown, sorry, not Blighttown, the depths. Like, once you get into the depths and you find the Ring of the Evil Eye, that suddenly makes progress infinitely easier, because rather than thinking, I'm going to have to go back to a bonfire, or I'm going to have to use an Estus, it's like, well, if I trolley into these next bunch of enemies, I can, get a little bit of health every time, and it encourages you to be more courageous, that you can sort of get that back without chipping into your Estus or other such like.
Yeah, it meets out advantages. It titrates these things that can get you ahead.
Yeah. Yep. I've never actually. Is it significant, the amount of health you get back from that? I've picked it up, but it comes at a weird place in my ring kind of progression where I end up finding something I want more shortly after.
The wiki says it heals 30 HP from fallen enemies, which is not insignificant, actually.
Cool.
It's sort of one sort of the little sort of indentations on the health bar. It's one of those per time. Yeah. So if your health bar's say halfway down, and you've got a few enemies that you can run at, or even sort of go into areas where you think there's going to be enemies that you can successfully get beyond. You might be sort of getting up to 3/4 or near to a full health bar, or even if your energy's low and you've run out of Estus, there's still this level of, I can push on through this, I can do it, and it encourages that instinct within you, and I think that's fabulous.
Yeah. And the depths are early enough on that you're fighting large numbers of relatively weak enemies. The rats, and if you have high enough curse to resist the basilisk, there are plenty of those. And so it is a relatively steady supply of health up.
Yeah. It's also, I mean, that's significant too. Like, we didn't spend too much time talking about that ring just because I've never used it, but it's noteworthy that there really are 4 ways of getting health back.
Yeah.
Like, if you're not going to use a miracle, Estus, or a humanity, like, that is the other way. So, yeah, it's interesting stuff. Yeah, the games are really well designed and much more friendly than I think they're given credit for.
Yeah.
I think because of the price point that the games have fallen to, with regards to Steam sales and various stores, there's been a few people that have gone, I can't really say no at that price. And I think a number of those people have been really surprised once they click with it. And I've always said to people that keep your shield up, don't be afraid to take a hit on it, and that'll stagger the enemy and see where you go from there. But people generally tend to get it and tend to become really enthusiastic about it, and that's one of the things that ties into why Paddy and I started doing sort of our podcast was it's nice to hear those little victories for people that have perhaps been put off by the game, and how enthusiastic they can be. So
you make it sound like a support group.
It almost, we're all supporting one another, because let's face it, if we weren't doing all of this together, I think it wouldn't be as much fun. But to get a game where people are still playing over 2 years since its release, and still talking about it and still finding new things is fabulous. I still watch tons and tons of stuff on YouTube, and Sunlight Blade's channel. I started watching the PvP stuff, and I still won't shut up about it.
I get a little bit upset whenever I hear that old saw, that meme, like, oh, I won't play this game because it's hard. Because it's such a, we just spent the past 7 minutes talking about it, but it's a misconception. And to hear that, it's like, well, but play it anyway.
Yeah.
Which, at that point you're arguing from a disadvantage. Yeah,
it's different than I want to be the guy.
Yeah.
It's different from when people hear hard, I think that the legendarily hard moniker is applied to a certain kind of game masochism.
Yeah.
Or the Prinny, can I really be the hero or something like that, which is very different than how this plays.
And like the Souls games have recontextualized what I consider to be hard in games, you know?
Yeah. Yep. Exactly. As opposed to, something I feel to be like arbitrary or shitty or, just kind of poorly designed. Like, very, very different. Yeah. Very different experiences.
Yeah.
And,
I don't want to be misunderstood. I don't mean that to be like, I played enough Souls that it's like I grew up in strong gravity and now I'm strong. Like, it's not that. It's just, and there's a spectrum to it. There's a nuance.
One of my favorite stories was when Dark Souls first came out, and one retailer saying that they'd had a number of people bring the game back because it was too hard for them or whatever. But that retailer was saying we had a number of those people come back and ask to buy the game again because they couldn't get it out of their mind. And at that point, the second-hand versions had been eagerly snapped up, and those people were buying new copies again. So they played it. It had frustrated them. Perhaps they'd read some more online, or they just plain couldn't get it out of their head, and they'd gone back to buy it again. So that to me suggests that it's it's enigmatic, that it's got this wonderful X factor that's not there elsewhere, and sometimes people can't process that. Until a little while after.
That's exactly my story. I mean, I'm on the record. An old podcast, like when I first played it, like there's audio on the website of me saying like, fuck this game.
Yeah. What episode is that in, Cole?
I need to go find it. It is there. I'll probably put it at the end of this episode or something since it's my edit, just cause. I
haven't wanted to dig through like the hundreds of hours of level backlog to find it, but I've always been interested to hear your take on it at that point. One thing it has done, when you say it's like recontextualized, it's not like you grew up in greater gravity. Like, it's rare that I apply Souls lessons to regular games. What I have noticed is that I find myself kind of seeking different experiences when I'm playing video games more often. So like a lot of my extracurricular playing, like things, and we talked about this way back in the first episode, I think, when we were making comparisons between Dark Souls and God of War, where it's like it's hard for me to go back to like a dumb action adventure game. A lot of the games I've been playing instead are really different experiences. Like, it's hard for me to do a game that like does Souls stuff but worse. An Over the Soul or Bash 'em Up, like, just doesn't, like, there's not enough there. I just can't do it. Like, I can play an RPG or I can play an indie game. That's a totally different experience, but something that's a shadow of this is hard to go to.
Yeah.
That quirk of nuance is something that really sings, though. When you notice a game, and I can forgive a lot in a game if it's been ambitious or it's trying to do something new. But I mean, I've been playing State of Decay a lot this year, the Xbox Live Arcade game, and it does pacing so well. It knows that with horror games, often it's about the moments when it's quiet as much as the moments when it's aggressive. And there's been parts in that game where I've genuinely panicked, that I've sort of shouted at the screen like a nutter. But even towards the start of the game, as you're approaching the town of Mount Tanner, there's a long drive up to the town.
Yeah.
And a sort of piece of music which gently floats along in the background, but there's this real feeling of dread, something weighing on your shoulders, that even though it's a character on screen, and the characters aren't really flush with characterization as such, the town feels real. It's one of those. Grant Morrison said that when you walk amongst a Silent Hill or something like that, it feels like a real place that you visited, that you've walked within, because you know where certain streets are. You could walk around that town in your head as if you actually visited there in the real. And Mount Tanner feels very much like that as well.
Yeah, I hit that game real hard when it first came out, and then moved and kind of just haven't picked it back up. But that's a real good game. And you're right. Like, that's what that game does best. Is it's not so much the planning, and it's not so much there are no big moments. Like, that game is without like a giant cutscene with any kind of shock and awe. It's all about anticipation and quiet moments of dread, because you don't know you can't you don't have eyes in the back of your head, and that's the hook of that game.
I can kick it on for sort of if I've got 20 minutes and just sort of clear a house full of infestation, or I'd argue that there are sort of bigger moments in there. I mean, I remember there was one mission where I had to visit some ne'er-do-wells that were sort of over on some sort of farm, and they might know where the doctor was. And I looked at my map and I was like, the arrow's pointing off screen. And I zoomed out the map. The first time I zoomed out the map, I was like, arrow's still pointing off screen. It was like, oh my God, how big is this place? And I got up there and I was talking to these guys, and one of them just said the equivalent of, they're coming. And he looked out of the window, and there were dots on the horizon from the field way, way, way away. And I was just thinking, oh my God. And it was minutes before they got there, but part of you was just going, and it was this wonderful dichotomy between sort of bravery and genuinely bricking it, and sort of wondering if you could survive it. And I actually lost the character at that moment, and I eventually ran out of this house and was running out of stamina. And stamina, in a similar way to the Souls games, can control sort of in this game can control running and sort of swinging weapon. And it got to a point where I had loads of the undead sort of upon me, and I had a little bit of stamina left, and if I ran, I was pounced upon. If I swung an axe, I was pounced upon. And it was just this real, this almost sort of death rattle that was in me. It was just like, I didn't know what to do. And I lost the character at that point. And I sat there on the couch after, and I was like mortified, because it felt that pressure and that sheer degree of panic and not knowing what to do for the best just really ran through me. And that's one of the things that cemented my addiction to the game, I think.
I guess what I mean is like the big moments are all quiet. Like it's that moment of anticipation as opposed to a cutscene or like a boss fight or something. And like it's interesting that you had that experience with that encounter, because that fell really weirdly flat for me. Like the game, I ended up kind of boarding up that house, and the guys who were trying to get in were never like aggressive enough to do it. And I couldn't find the triggers to end it. Like I managed to kill them because there was a real, like they were just kind of trickling in one by one, and it was no problem. And the thing just wouldn't end. Like it was a weird point in which the game broke for me. But it's just like that's the appeal of a game where everything can kind of be procedurally generated that way. Where they're not set encounters, so the game rules can the elements of the game kind of interact with each other in interesting ways to create memorable moments in different situations. And
you can take your choice as to whether you're going to go and try and check in on a survivor, or you're going to do one thing, or you're going to do another. So it's constantly as to what you really want to do, and it's not trying to funnel you down a path. And that's something that I really enjoy about it. Plus, everybody does have different experiences of it, like you were saying about that moment. Or the funniest one was a guy called David Turner's on the Joypod podcast, who had to end a character, and he got no bullets in his gun, and his weapon had broke, and he just ended up jumping on this bloke's head until he died. He was like, that's just shocking. But yeah, for the sake of £14 as it was, borrow a penny, I've really enjoyed that this year.
Oh yeah, that's a super good game.
I apologize for being quiet, but you mentioning Grant Morrison saying the word Silent Hill for some reason triggered me into this reverie, and I've been looking at this interview. Like it's a confused example, and I think it reveals a lot about me. But the only equivalent I can think of is if Christina Hendricks came up to me and said, "Hey, have you heard about this band Ockerville River?"
I do love Morrison, I must admit. So
it
was interesting to see him speak about games, because I'd not seen him speak about video games before, and he tipped the hat towards Just Cause 2, which I had stupendous amounts of fun with. But then kind of had my own journey with that, where the story is absolute bollocks. It's a rubbish story, but I just ended up, shooting stuff and driving cars and doing the general things that I don't normally enjoy in a sandbox, because I was just having fun at my own pace. But I stuck in a memory stick of old Commodore 64 chip tunes, and that just made it feel more gamey, and I was really enjoying that. And then I put in put on some Radiohead, and all of a sudden everything just turned upside down because this Pinau for as utterly ridiculous as it was, and how cartoony all the combat was. Suddenly, the sun setting on this far off island that was corrupt and war torn with Radiohead playing in the background just seemed really sinister and sad, and I don't know. It put a different context on things, and I was like, oh, this is great.
Yeah. I'm sure you've heard me go on about it before on the show, but that's my favorite comic book author. Like I've read just about everything Grant Morrison's done that doesn't have Batman or DC characters I don't know anything about in. So all of his Vertigo stuff.
One of those people that changed my life. I mean, that his Doom Patrol stuff, that final Animal Man destroyed me. And Flex Mantello, I still think is one of the most perfect stories that's ever been written.
Oh yeah, Flex Mantello is incredible. And I had a real I feel like a year of obsession about the Invisibles, where if you look at my Facebook history, there's a section where I was changing my profile picture to Mr. Quimper, and everything was a quote from, and it was just this ridiculous thing that took over my life for a while. And then he also he does, and I know Cole's read this, but his run on when he does commercial stuff, his run on X-Men is my favorite thing in the X-Men universe.
X-Men is just fantastic.
And the best thing that's been done with that property.
Yeah. Have you read the Super Gods book that he's done?
Yes.
Yeah.
Loved it. Loved it to pieces. Devoured that. I thought it was fantastic.
Yeah. Yeah, he's incredible. Have you seen the documentary?
Yeah, I've got that on my PS3, and I really enjoyed the conversations he's done with Kevin Smith recently as well.
I haven't seen those.
Yeah, Fat Man on Batman, I think they're called. But there's one which covers similar ground to the documentary, but it's there's a great piece where Grant tries to tie all of Batman's history in various versions together, which is superb. Like when he was in the 60s, that he'd inhaled so much Joker gas that he was seeing these big whamps and kapows above his head, and just literally drawing a perfect line between the entire history of Batman. And
that's great.
Morrison's wonderful when you hear him talk. I think he's a really eloquent speaker, and I'd love to see someone like that visit schools and talk to children.
Yeah,
and just try and blow their minds completely, and just get them thinking out of the box, because he's been so important to my life in the way that I look at the world and think, and him and Mark Waid and J.M. DeMatteis have been sort of big influences on me. So
Grant Morrison walks into a classroom and just writes storytelling on the blackboard and then walks out.
And then all the kids follow him, and the teacher's like, "Where are you going?" They're like, "We're following the bald man. He's great."
Yeah.
But he'd probably walk in there in a crushed velvet purple suit and a really beautiful leather tie, and probably those glasses from the Invisibles, and perhaps a spiky rucksack, and the kids would be like, oh, "It's Negative Santa."
Yeah, Negative Santa.
That's pretty good.
Cole, you've got to read something trippier by him, because the new X-Men is a kind of a masterclass in really hooky good storytelling.
Yeah.
The more the stuff he's done independently that is more meta and weird is more what I know him for. I got to get you I know your comic reading schedule, whatever that is, but read and I think I've suggested this to you before. Read The Filth. Because I feel like it's one volume, so it's relatively easy to digest, and it kind of functions as a small, a version writ small of the Invisibles, which is his big ambitious, crazy thing.
Yeah.
Did you ever get Lovely Biscuits, the little short story book that he did in 2000?
No, I've never heard of that.
One of them tied into the Invisibles, which was the Hand of Glory. Basically, with Sherlock Holmes discovering this house that the Hand of Glory was in, and basically all of the members of this house started fucking each other, and the house started fucking them and turning into one giant monster, which was bizarre. But there was one story in particular which was set in France, and it was about this blind girl. And there was a guy who came into this cafeteria who got this really beautiful voice, and it really affected her. And when she eventually touched this guy, he got tattoos, but they were like wood carvings, and she could read. She was fascinated by touching sort of his arms and reading these carvings as they went along. And it's sort of the I don't know, the sensuality of someone with that kind of voice and these mysterious tattoos that and how it draws in someone with no sight into a world of darkness and sensuality. Brilliant story.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I'm gonna have to look that up. It's weird to me that I haven't heard of that, because I've got pretty much, like, I felt like the whole canon up until like Super DC time.
Mm-hmm.
So
I've I make no pretenses about being anything other than a comics poser. I've got a lot of time to make up for. However, I am enjoying the ride, and New X-Men is what I know Grant Morrison for.
Yeah. There's good stuff everywhere. Like, just about everything he's written that isn't, like, if you don't recognize it, it's really good.
Yeah.
Like, it would be weird to pick up Batman Incorporated out of nowhere. Like, those are good. This is getting this is so far off topic as to be but I don't, mainstream DC stuff doesn't interest me too much. Like, I don't think it's bad. It's no worse than my mainstream stuff that I like, but it's not what I grew up with, so I don't care too much about it. But up until that, his Vertigo run, 90s, through the mid to late 2000s is just incredible. Like, it is so good. And 80s too, I guess, because Animal Man was 80 what? Late 80s?
Yeah, was it 87?
Yeah, so he had a 20-year run where everything he touched is some of my favorite, writing in any medium. So
I think the ground that he's breaking then, I mean, a lot of British authors were pulled over and sort of ended up not having as much sort of reverence for the material and being genuinely creative with, a lot of genuinely forgotten property. And some of that Doom Patrol stuff.
Oh yeah,
threw me a huge loop, because as much as I enjoyed the Invisibles, because the Doom Patrol was perhaps being at least trying to format into a DC book, it seemed like he was pushing the envelope a little bit more rather than being unrestrained, and I enjoyed those stories more than the Invisibles, I guess.
The what I always end up taking from them are individual idealets. And and so I'll read, I love Doom Patrol, and I'll read through that, and it's here's a sentient city, or a sentient street. That's the best idea I've ever heard. That's so good. That communicates through street signs and steam on windows. That's so good.
Could appear anywhere in the world. A city that you've walked in 1,000 times, and then you turn down a street that you don't recognize, and it's Danny the Street.
the thing about Doom Patrol too, the difference there is it's a little brighter. It's a dark story, but the thing with the Invisibles of him being so unrestrained is you get things the businessmen who take the drug that allows them to ride black people and do terrible things, and and that is you get this weird unbridled and same thing with the Filth too. The Filth is incredible. It ends on that upbeat, but there's so much just blacker than night. Just pure letting out every dark thought you've ever had into some of those ideas that is really appealing to me, just as an intensity of experience.
Have you read that recent story about the killer that sort of has the equivalent of a My Little Pony appear to him, and he's really bright and charismatic and hopeful, and this person's basically a murderer?
No, I haven't.
How they interact? I'm curious about that.
I haven't been to a comic store in a long time. The last thing I read by him that was new was Joe the Barbarian, which is really good, but I haven't been to a comic book store in a while.
I used to be a really big sort of DC buff, but the price of comics has kind of put me off quite a lot now. But also the stuff that's going on at DC following the reboot, just it doesn't seem like my universe anymore.
Yeah,
which makes me sound sort of really, really old and hackneyed, but I don't know. I just I don't see a lot there that I could click with. Plus, the things that appear to have done really well following the reboot could have just run on anyway.
Yeah, and also who wants to have individual comics around their house? At this point, I'll get a book, but having individual floppies, I have no interest in that.
Oh, I've still got tons of stuff in old photocopier boxes on top of the wardrobe and on shelves and stuff, and I keep thinking I should really put this in the basement. I can't be asked a lot of the time. It just stays there.
Bagged and boarded.
Mm-hmm.
Not quite bagged and boarded, just put in, just
boxed and boxed it. Yeah.
Yeah, some of them are still in the bags that were perhaps given away by the comic shop when I bought them, but no, they've been read and devoured. And some stuff like the Animal Man and Doom Patrol things, or Mark Waid's run on Flash, or things that are really precious to me. I kept like that. Frank Miller's sort of Daredevil run. Like Born Again stuff is boarded, but a lot of it was just bought purely for the enjoyment and not just to read it with sort of medical gloves on and then seal it behind sort of perspex and as I've seen.
Well, I need to eat, gentlemen.
Yeah,
I had to put. I'm sorry to put a pin in this, but
no, it's been a genuine pleasure, and it's nice to have a chat and kind of have so many giggles and. Feels like fast friends. I like that.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, we kind of transitioned seamlessly into deleted scenes from that. But everyone listening remembers all the admin stuff from last time.
Yeah. All I will say, again, if you're in the Pacific Northwest, next Saturday, as you're listening to this, scant less than 6 days, I think, until we do our live show for Watch Out for Fireballs. You can find all the info on our various channels. But you know.
Yep, and go listen to Twin Humanities podcast.
Yes.
And
twinhumanities.tumblr.com.
Yeah.
Bless you.
And I'm until next time, if you take a step forward.
So the world might be mended.
Umbasa.
And we all pray that we will have far more soon.
Hiya. How are you?
Hey!
You doing well?
Doing just fine. How are you?
I'm good, thank you. A couple of chocolate bars and a big mug of coffee, and I'm doing grand.
Yeah, no. we can't thank you enough for wow. Holy crap. Being on the slate.
Did you see the new Epic Name Bro video talking about Dark Souls 2 today?
No, I did not. Is he talking about the new trailer?
No, he had hands-on time with it at the Tokyo Game Show. And he's done stuff like the first thing that he did, whereas all the journalists have gone through and played the game. First thing that he did was press select on the control pad. So he brought up all the stats, and he was basically saying that there's things like your casting time now is tied into how many achievement slots that you've got. And basically he runs through all the different bits that have changed with regards to parrying, saying that there's a delay in the parrying time, but you can parry the right-hand weapon. But if somebody goes in with a left-hand weapon, you're going to struggle to encourage sort of double sword play. There's also the stuff where if you bring a phantom into your game, they're on a timer, and the more people that they kill, the faster their timer goes down.
Yeah,
which is crazy.
Yeah.
And there were all these sort of little tweaks, and it just sounds like it's going to be its own entity. They're not just going, oh, well, Dark Souls has been really massive, we'll do that again.
Yeah.
But it's fantastic. There were certain points I was kind of sitting there. It's sort of quite cold here, so I was sort of curled up on the couch under the duvet, and I felt like a little kid on Christmas Eve, and like Santa's telling me the presents that I've got coming. So I was sort of like, oh, really? And odd swears and stuff. But it's a great little video, and it'll get you stupendously excited.
Yeah. I read some details. There were a lot of previews that went out yesterday when the preview event went up, talking about like undead invasions, and they're bringing back the health halving.
Which is something that threw me when. Yeah, it threw me on the initial play of Dark Souls, because at first I thought, well, they missed the trick here, because there's no difference, without realizing, the NPC stuff and how helpful other people could be in there. But it does sound like they've really shaken things up. Oh, and there's something else that was in there as well, was your ability to backstab is dependent on the weapon that you're holding, that some weapons are better at backstabbing than others.
Oh, kind of like how some shields would be better at parrying than others.
Yeah. So that's going to be interesting as to whether that's to encourage swapping through your weapons a little faster. If you're thinking that, right, I'm going to go in for a backstab, so I'll go for a smaller, stabby little beast rather than sort of carrying a Zvi, which might be a longer swing to try and get a backstab in with. But it was just one of those that it left me beaming. So if there's any electric charge to staying up to 2 in the morning, even beyond chocolate bars and coffee, it's still that, because it's got me giggling like a loon.
Yeah, I saw you tweet about it, but I haven't gotten a chance to watch it yet. Yeah, and there's kind of a lot of it going on now, so I was kind of waiting for some of the initial flood of news to kind of die down in order to wait for somebody who I had seen before and kind of trusted to speak about it. So that's really cool. I've been at work all day, so I haven't seen it yet, but I was planning to check that out. So I'm Gary, by the way.
Yes.
Oh, hello.
Yeah. Hello. Introductions and everything. This is Cole.
We launch right into it. Yeah. We know who each other are. We're good.
I think that's the thing. If the bonding is souls, then fast friends that you shall become. Book of Bob, chapter orange.
Yeah. If you meet another soul on the road. I think the trailer looks, kill them.
Kill them, steal their souls, yeah.
Yeah, kill them for some of them. I think the trailer looks really good. I know that there are probably going to be gameplay wrinkles that I can't expect even after the trailers, but I know that I will adapt myself to them, and it is a function of trust that I will come to love everything that initially causes me difficulty, because that's how it's gone with the other 2 games as well. Like, it just took me a little while to figure it out.
They know what they're doing.
One of the things that they said was all the footage that they're showing off at Tokyo Game Show that the journalists have been writing about is actually the beta.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, which is really exciting, and it concludes with that chariot going down the corridor that was seen in the early footage.
Yeah.
I'll have me a slice of that.
I'm psyched to that. I'm definitely psyched about that guy. The only thing that out of the big news bump that's disappointed me is the no day and date PC, because I know that's how I'm going to want to play it. Like it's waiting, like I did unintentionally for Dark Souls to turned out to be the best choice, just because I can do all kinds of neat stuff with it.
I'm thinking that this isn't a degree of we're not sure as to whether the PC version's been finished. I think this is strategic, because if the PC version isn't available on launch, people are going to buy the 360 and the PS3 version, because they're going to want it. It's that want it culture. They're going to want it within the first few weeks, and if then they go right, the PC version's going to be if say 11th of March on PS3 and 360. If they then say that the PC version is going to be, say, April 2nd or something like that,
right?
I think people will jump on the console versions first and then get the PC version afterwards, because that's the reason I think that they've not announced PS4 and 360 versions, because they'll get the bulk of those sales out of the way, and then they'll make a splash with the later versions, and it's still that drip feed of information and sort of mana to the hungry people that want it, I think.
If only we hadn't been so loyal.
Yeah.
Mind you, if you see my collection of like the Souls games, I got the Atlas US release, then I supported the Black Phantom EU release of Demon Souls. I got the first release of Dark Souls, then the Prepare to Die one on PC, and my PC's it's like something like the Flintstones. If you open up the side, there's probably some sort of hamster on a treadmill.
It's a living.
Yeah.
God damn it, Gary.
No left fields.
Yeah.
But yeah, I got one of the UK retailers released the Steelbook edition about a month ago, which is absolutely beautiful. And I see this little pile growing. And when they announced that collector's edition of the new one, one of my friends was like, "I'm not paying £90 for a statue," and I'm like, "Well, just buy the regular one, misery trousers." Like,
that's how I'm
statue soundtrack. I love that.
That's how I'm justifying it to myself, is that I can buy the collector's edition of the. Pardon me. I can buy the collector's edition of the 360 or PS3 version, and then I'll buy the PC version for, once it comes out, where I'll do all my later runs and when they do all the modding and stuff. Yeah. So one of them is just for the statue and the map, and all the jazz. I'm so jazzed about that cloth map. It's stupid how excited I am about that. Like, I'm like that is it's an automatic. Like if I graded games, it would be hard not to give every game that came with a cloth map an extra letter grade.
On the Namco US site of the original Dark Souls, that if you bought it, you got a T-shirt. I think that was something like a cloth map of the Undead Burg and the game.
I've seen that map before, but it was after my time. Like I came to the game after it. I bought it on PC first after, kind of evangelizing. So there we go. And I don't. The only collector thing I've really got is have you seen those customs? I got the guy who made the Solaire statues. For a time, I've got a little Solaire statue.
Oh wow!
I'm very.
I've seen the one. I think I saw it on Tumblr.
Yeah, and they followed up. They did a Sif statue after that, but the Sif statue was much more expensive and also mostly looked like a wolf. So I figured I could go into any truck stop and make my own custom Sif statue just by
get a Bowie knife and some duct tape.
Yeah, I was going to say on the floor of the truck stop, people walking past, they were like, "Can I get to the chips, please?" And we're like, "Not until I've done this."
Yeah,
I'm making a wolf warrior.
Yeah, no. Listen, there's a lot of lore you need to digest before you can summarily dismiss this project. Yeah. So Sif was the faithful companion of Knight Artorias.
Suddenly become like one of the merchants in Demon Souls, sitting there cross-legged and go like, "Hello, stranger. Would you like to buy a wolf statue?" That was a bit too Resident Evil 4 for its own good, I think. But
buying a wolf statue.
Every time somebody Scottish comes into work, there's a little sort of flicker in the back of my mind thinking, at the end of the world, this is the sort of person that will be able to fix you weapons. Be nice.
Oh, that is funny.
You know when you get those little ticks from the games as well?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, or somebody reminds you of something. I remember there was one point, there was a guy that came in who walked exactly like the fat official from Demon Souls, and I was trying not to, but then afterwards with Demon Souls, when I saw like the fat official, I kept imagining this guy, and then my brain flicked to imagine if he's got a cassette Walkman on, what he's listening to. And there was you can tell by the way I move my Walkman. That was in there. There was Thriller by Michael Jackson. And then it was one day, and I'm sure I was just playing it up until the early hours, trying to get past the dragon on 1-3, I think. You know, that one that just breathes fire constantly down that lane, and this two of the fat official.
Yeah.
And for some reason, "Sunshine of Your Life" by Stevie Wonder came into my head as he's like wandering down there, like clubbing out a pally. "You are the sunshine of my life." Just something really peaceful and really soul. And he's just like.
Yeah, there's one of my coworkers had a baby, and their baby crawls just like the Titanite demon, and she showed me a video of it, and I was just like, "That's a Titanite demon crawl right there." And that's what that is. And then her husband got into the Souls games, and sent me a text, and it was just like, "That's exactly what it is."
The next step would be to get them one of those little prongs, at least for photographs.
A baby catch pole.
Baby catch pole.
Yeah,
baby's first catch pole.
Short of removing a leg and a head.
Or harvesting it for anything.
Yeah.
In for a penny, in for a pound.
Yeah.
Jeez.
Little Cassie, I can't. I can't.
I can't.
Just imagine sort of if it was a proper reality and sort of people are going through these worlds and they're seeing the ghost, they were just like, I trod on that bloodstain and that guy fell over the edge. You'd be like, "Did you see the ghost of the guy with the notepad?"
I'm sure that Cole's bloodstain is going to be more bland than any of these. Eventually, when Cole dies and someone touches his bloodstain,
it'd just be a lot of sitting still, punctuated by a couple of instances of rapid movement.
Yeah. Let's stop short of conjecturing on the cause of your death.
Please.
Yeah.
We'll just pick a mixtape and then just stand there whilst the single tear sort of falls down the cheek.
Did you know that I just learned that there's a thing called it's like Lucretia mortis, and it's your eye there's essentially like a process in your eye that holds in tears, and when you die, it dies. And a lot of times when people die, you shed a tear.
No?
Like there's a name for it. Like it is a specific thing that will happen. And sometimes it happens like within 10 hours of you dying, but it's like a surefire sign of death is that your eyes lose the ability to retain tears, and you'll actually cry on when you die. Like just one tear. It's like all the tear fluid that you've saved up.
How did you find that out?
A podcast. Is about how stuff works about dying, like the process of dying.
Oh man, I haven't listened to that yet.
Yeah, it just came out today. It's real good.
Yeah.
What's that?
Lots of interesting stuff.
Yeah. I fucking love that show. I didn't know you listened to that.
Oh yeah,
What's that?
It's called How Stuff Works.
How Stuff Works?
Oh, no,
yeah.
I'm sorry, Stuff You Should Know.
Yeah.
From How Stuff Works, the network. Stuff You Should Know. It's like two like real genial dudes, and they just pick something like, here's how Navy SEALs work. Here's how human growth hormones work. Here's how just random. Here's how Mardi Gras works.
Yeah,
and talks about it.
Oh, that sounds cool.
It's been going for like 6-7 years now, something like that. I haven't listened to it for like 6.
Yeah, it's great.
The only thing I can kind of jostle with that, which is a really bizarre fact, which came in my head the other day. Somebody put it on Twitter, and it just refuses to leave. Which was, do you know the difference in age between the actor Gary Oldman and the musician Gary Newman? It's 21 days. Gary Oldman is 21 days older than Gary Newman.
No, I
didn't know that.
How bizarre is that? If there's ever a God up in heaven, and it was just like, these miracles on the earth with that year, we're like, well, I'll set up the ecosystem. We're like, what was you? He's like, you know Gary Oldman, the actor, and he just delivers this joke that he thinks is the funniest joke ever. But I just thought it was bizarre.
So I'm going to reveal my ignorance. What's is there a significance to the 21 days?
Well,
I don't know. Perhaps that's the next.
No, that's just the difference between. It's just been quantified what the difference between old and new is.
Oh, okay, yeah. So it's not okay. So I'm not revealing ignorance. I'm revealing dim-wittedness. Okay, there we go.
I thought you were going into a deeper meaning there. I thought you were going into an extra layer.
Yeah. Nope.
3 weeks. What could that be?
Not even scratching the surface. Oh man! So you say Gary Oldman, and all I think of and the gestalt of that is for me right now, Gordon, right?
Mm-hmm.
And you say Gary Newman, and all I hear is Cars.
Yeah, that's the guy.
And so, like all that sentence says to me is, Commissioner Gordon is 21 days older than Cars.
Yeah. Some Cars.
You could get a version of Commissioner Gordon doing a version of Cars, but relating it to his jealousy to the Batmobile.
Yeah, Batmobiles.
Yeah, there we go.
Here in my car, it's not as good as his car. He is wearing a cape and a rubber suit.
It's
car.
oil slicks and caltrops too.
Where is my anchor where I can drive around the corner? That wasn't on the list. I couldn't even afford aircon.
This is going to be a fun episode.
Yeah. That's possibly, like, with all due respect to everyone involved in that last couple minutes, maybe the dumbest thing that we've ever recorded. Like, it's so... like, well, what if Commissioner Gordon was singing a parody of Gary Newman's car about the Batmobile?
Well, thank you very much for joining us on the Depression Archive, where we try to combat all forms of depression. This week, Commissioner Gordon sings a version of Cars. Remember, jealousy is a factor in many people's depression.
and we think it would sound a little something like this.
And they take off a robe and there's some sort of glittery disco costume. And they just start doing the Cars dance. But perhaps with a pair of Commissioner Gordon glasses and a stick-on moustache.
And he dies halfway through and his wife's real sad, but then he comes back and says, I had to do it.
that comes back for the last chorus.
If the us don't do that well between us, we can always tour this, I believe.
I think so.
We did the podcasts and we love Dark Souls, but Broadway was a different matter. Once we got there, the sights, the sounds, the rapturous audience, Praise the Sun became secondary to all of us.
Praise the sun, but our sun became the spotlight.
The love boat. That would be the encore, obviously.
Oh yeah.
I was trying to think of somebody who'd be jealous of a boat for the Love Boat song, but like there's nobody with like, I don't know, like I'm trying to think of somebody like a musician with the last name Shipman or something like that.
Barry Manilow was always sort of accused of speedboating, I believe the term was.
No, you're missing it, Gary Billy Ocean.
Oh, there we go.
Yeah.
Billy Ocean.
That would have been a fitting end to his career. Because every now and again, one of those songs will come on, and I'll be like, "I hated you."
Billy Ocean or Barry Manilow.
Barely Manilow. Burn.
Is that the sort of tribute act that just does a really depressed version of Barry Manilow?
Oh, I guarantee there's a cover version of Barry Manilow called Barely Manilow. That's too good.
Yeah.
Like
the guy coming on just looking really dour, maybe sort of stains over a suit and go, "Here's another one of his songs." God, I hate Barry Manilow.
It's fucking magic.
Yep, it's fucking magic. BarelyManilow.com, the ultimate Barry Manilow cover band.
Someone that suffers with Tourette's.
That'd be Butley Manilow or Bumley Manilow or Bitchley Manilow. Somebody had Tourette's.
Someone that suffers from Tourette's but is child friendly.
Oh.
Poo.
Yeah, poo. Yeah.
All the bases now?
I think so.
Yeah, join us on next week's show when we'll be...
Yeah.
Are we prepared to do what we've been playing?
Yeah, I'm down with that.
Yeah?
Let's do it.
Okay. So
I think you should go first.
Oh, okay. Yeah, we're good. Let's jump right into it. All right.
So cool. What you been playing?
Oh, I'm so happy that you asked. And it's convenient because we're all in front of microphones. I have been playing Dark Souls, which is From Software's spiritual successor / follow-up to Demon's Souls from last year. And I got through the tutorial.
It's the most lukewarm praise I've ever heard.
Well, the game prides itself on being incredibly difficult. Do
they still have the stupid death penalties?
I didn't think the death penalties were too hard. Okay, so the game's tagline is "Prepare to Die," which, again, leveraging their reputation. And, it's kind of laid out to be kind of like a roguelike. It's supposed to have some kind of permanence to the way things happen. If you die on the way back to your corpse retrieval, you lose humanity and you lose, I think, some experience, which, gives you incentive to stay alive. And you will die quite often is something that they've built in and made a core mechanic of the game, which is okay, but in my experience, a lot of the difficulty was fake, in that I was dying on just the regular mook skeletons that would rise out of the graveyard and come at me. It's just kind of like, well, I'm blocking and I go and hit, but I can only take 3 hits before I die. So making the same corpse run over and over and over, my patience just dwindled away. The tutorial was good because I guess it has to be easy because it is a tutorial, but it shows you kind of like breaking out of this asylum for the dead, which just anybody who comes back to life after they die, they're put away in this place because they ultimately lose all their humanity and become the hollow. But you get out and you have to go and find a way to restore all of your humanity, and you have to defeat a big demon, and that was fairly difficult, but you managed to get around it because the dodging was okay. But just in general, the controls are kind of clunky. The presentation's kind of weird. I kind of got a kind of early PS2 vibe from the interface and the menus and stuff like that. And this is one of my biggest complaints. The main attack, like swinging your sword, that is mapped on the Xbox 360 to the right bumper.
Okay.
And if you're not familiar with the Xbox 360 controller, the right bumper is kind of where R1 would be on a PS3 controller. But it is the worst feeling button on the controller. It's super wiggly and it clicks. It feels cheap, and if you're mashing that over and over again, it's like it's the least appropriate place they could put that command. One of the most common ones they're going to be using.
You can't change it?
Not that I saw, no.
Oh, no, that's just kind of dumb.
Yeah, so I gave it a shot. I just wanted to see what all the hubbub was about. Yes, it's hard. Yes, it's punishing in a lot of the wrong ways. I don't know. I mean, it has promise. Like, it's this open world kind of thing, and you go around and you do like dungeon crawls and stuff like that. I always like the idea of like traps in the environment. Like, I like
Yeah.
I'm one of the few people who really likes like trial and error trap navigation and things like that. Just things that kind of like you should have noticed, but you didn't. But you're like, oh, I'll be more watchful about that in the future.
So you probably really like New Vegas then.
Yeah, I was going to say, I quickly learned to be careful around anywhere the Legion's been.
Exactly. They are cuckoo for setting up shotguns at head level. But yeah, and kind of in the same vein, a lot of the different kinds of dungeons that you would run into in Elder Scrolls Oblivion, I thought that those were handled very well. And this, kind of, played itself off or came across to me as a hyper Japanese approach to trying to make an Elder Scrolls game, which I get. The story is goddamn incomprehensible, by the way. You should get a YouTube of the opening cinematic by itself, because there are like 16 different factions, and there's a skinless dragon, I guess, that went against dragonkind, and they're just like, it showed like all the different kingdoms and the monsters that inhabit it. It is super surreal. Like, I questioned my sanity after watching.
I really kind of liked the storyline of Demon Souls. That was the previous one, right?
That was the previous one, and from what I understand, they're very closely linked. I never played Demon Souls, and I guess what I'm saying is this is not for me, so I don't want to make a qualitative judgment. I don't understand. I don't understand why anybody with my temperament would want to play it, because I get frustrated and discouraged easily.
Oh yeah, I didn't think it was a good game. I at least my take on Demon Souls was it had a lot going for it in terms of fairly interesting character progression, kind of an interesting storyline. It just wasn't a good game.
One notable thing, I don't have my system connected to the internet, and even if I did, I don't have Xbox Live Gold, so I probably wouldn't have been able to see the notes that are left behind, like the ghosts of other players. Like, when you die, you can leave a message for people who come behind you, which seems like an interesting way to kind of plot out and give tips to each other, or even misdirection. That seems like it'd be fun.
It's there's only one thing you use that for, and that's to try to lead people into traps.
That would be fun. I would like that, but oh well. Any questions or thoughts on that before I move on?
I just want to talk about Coder, so no.
Well, I'll keep you in suspense a little bit more, Ben, because I've been playing Myst 4 Revelation.